Good morning, YouTube. It's a lot of bad news for Ford. And we're Ford fans. I own several Fords. You have a baby Bronco.
Ooh, I do.
This news affects you.
Really? Wait, like me personally?
Your baby Bronco could burn to the ground at any moment, and Ford's fix is not making the government happy.
At any moment?
It could, yes.
What's happening?
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. First,
Okay.
electric cars, because that's what everybody talks about. Ford had slashed their prices on electric cars to get them sold. The Lightning pickup truck, the Mustang Mach-E, they were too expensive, they weren't selling. They decided to slash prices to get them moved. It worked, but now they're reporting they lost, on average, $100,000 on every single electric vehicle they sold.
Is that possible? Like, they have to be exaggerating, I feel like, to get some sort of government subsidy. Be like, oh, no, poor me, we lost $100,000. Like,
they are
really?
not exaggerating. The total number that they are forecasting is a loss up to $5.5 billion.
Wait, what did you say with a B?
Billion.
Billion.
Correct.
Dollars.
Yes.
What is going on?
So to build an electric car at a price that is affordable, that people will actually buy them, you lose billions of dollars.
That seems crazy. Like, I get setting up all the tools and supplies and the machines initially, and that's going to be your huge cost to get that organized, all the engineers in line, the designers in line. But after that's done, like, why are you losing on each car?
Brain goes bleep. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's why
sorry.
I feel like there's something else going on here.
No. Well, it's an entirely new manufacturing process that is a lot more complicated, relying on battery. Who the heck knows? But clearly Ford is being very public about this so that they can have an excuse to scale back and push back at the government mandating going all electric. And, the public pushing for this, like, ooh, it's the feel-good thing to do to go all electric, and they make these big plans.
Right.
And we're not doing them, and here's why. The CEO, Jim Farley, he's talking about this. He's very vocal about this just to prove a point. Like, we build cars to make money.
Right.
And if electric cars are going to lose $100,000 a car and people don't want them, well, then we're not going to build them. We're not going to scale things up. We're not going to invest in new battery facilities and new cars. And so they're just changing everything. Their whole lineup, their whole thought of the future, totally changing, because the dominant force right now is Toyota, thanks to all of their hybrids. They went all in on hybrids. It's the quickest selling cars in the U.S., the Corolla, the Highlander, the RAV4 hybrids.
Right.
That's where the American manufacturers could have gone or should have gone,
Right.
but instead they went full EV and failed.
Right. Well, hybrid, obviously the most efficient, best of both worlds right here. So I understand why Toyota is on top and Ford is drowning a little bit.
Yeah, but don't feel bad for Ford, April.
What are they doing?
Because on the mechanical side, the internal combustion side of things, they're being kind of naughty.
Really?
Yes.
How dare they?
So they're being investigated by the NHTSA, NHTSA.
Yeah, NHTSA.
Because of, you do spots for NHTSA, right? To have
yes.
buckle your seatbelt and all that stuff on the radio, right?
On the radio. You might hear me once in a while.
So they're having an issue with fuel leaks. The most recent one is with the diesel 6.7s. They can spring a leak from their fuel filters. Not as bad of an issue because it's harder to combust diesel and all that stuff, but still, new Ford trucks, they're leaking diesel fuel. Ford is not really wanting to do the hard fix of replacing this fuel filter issue and all that stuff. But the bad one is with Ford Escapes and Ford Bronco Sports with the 1.5 liter angry 3-cylinder engine that you have.
The baby that I have.
The baby Bronco.
The year that I have.
You've had it for a year. 2022 and 2023 baby
Yeah.
Broncos. It's what you have in Chicago.
Right.
We both have been beating on that thing for a year.
You beat it up so hard. You drive really hard.
Well, I'm used to having a little bit more power on tap
You're
than,
not gentle.
than that. So
Not gentle.
I did have to borrow your Bronco one time.
Yes.
And I had to make a ferry to get to Washington Island, a very remote area. Flew into Chicago, got your car, had to make this ferry. The last one of the day was something like 6 o'clock or whatever.
Right.
And so I drove the snot out of this thing just to get it there. By the time I was there, it was making some weird noises, very tappy. Just seemed very stressed. It leveled out. We had an oil change since. It's been totally reliable and fine, but it's certainly gutless. I mean, what's your impressions for the past year with your baby Bronco?
It's fine. It's practical. It's, not over the top. It's not a show-off car. It's just to get me to point A to point B. And I like boxy
It is
SUVs.
good looking.
So
yes.
that's kind of where it's at.
So of all the little SUVs that are somewhat reasonably priced,
Yeah.
why did you choose the baby Bronco over something else?
Why'd you call it little?
It is. It's a tiny SUV.
You're gonna give it a complex.
I guess you wouldn't do a Jeep Renegade because it's Italian-based and it's been around for a while. The Baby Bronco was newer, cooler, but
Right.
was there anything else
No,
that you thought of?
I love Broncos. I love the first generation Restomod Broncos. I think they're so cool and sexy and sweet. Obviously, I just didn't want to go there. It's just not right for me to do that in Chicago. You don't want a nicely restored, Restomod Bronco in Chicago. And it just seemed like, oh, they're cool. They're coming out with this new boxy kind of retro throwback-ish a little bit look where a lot of other cars are going, bubbly and round. And I just thought it was a cool looking car and I needed something to get around and it made sense for me at the time.
Right, you go from a Mercedes ML350
Yeah.
that you dump at CarMax because it needed too much to fix. This is
Right.
before she had me around to help out, I
Yeah.
suppose, to fix hoopty things.
Yes, yeah.
To the Baby Bronco.
I think they're cool and they're fun and they're good looking and it's, like I said earlier, it's not a show-off car, but it's not a beater either.
No.
It's great.
Absolutely. It's
Mid-ground.
a perfect, it is a crossover, but it's still cool because crossovers for the most part are
Right.
kind of boring and all look the same and they're not that this one has much off-road utility, but it has some, like the goat modes and things. It's a
Yeah.
unibody car basically. It's lifted, but it is one of the rare ones that is kind of cool at the price point because most
Right.
of them are just blobs.
Well, and I like that you said that because the price point seemed something like I could afford to pay for my house, all my utilities, and have some money to have fun with. Also have a car and not be just completely flat out broke. It was just something easy
Right.
to have in Chicago. That made me happy. and
But
get
you
through the
hadn't had a
snow.
car loan in a while. So,
Right.
And you have better credit than me, like she likes to brag about all the time.
Well, that's
so.
why I feel like you like me around because I do have better credit than you.
But it was still, what was the interest rate? Like something like
Oh my gosh, you guys, it was like 8%, maybe 7 or 8% interest rate. And I have fantastic
for slightly
credit.
used, like it.
I have fantastic credit.
Yeah.
These credit prices, or what are they called? Credit
Interest
percentage?
rates, yeah.
These interest rates are like absolutely killing people. I don't know what's
Right.
going on.
Yeah, the fuel injectors.
So,
They leak.
okay.
They can leak onto the exhaust and cause a fire. Which
I got a letter about a recall that I just kind of, like we all do, just toss it away.
This one's kind of
It's
important.
Junk mail.
It's kind of important because if this fuel leaks enough to catch a spark, if you have a broken injector that's leaking fuel onto the exhaust, it will catch fire and it will burn to the ground.
I hope it does. That would be fantastic. That's all I need right now.
Poor Baby Bronco. I guess you get the Lincoln
I'm
and like your
surprised.
Grand National or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised it didn't happen when he drove it to Washington Island.
So Ford should fix this.
Mm-hmm.
Another example in the past is, say, my Ferrari 355 that burned to the ground. They had a fuel line issue where the fuel line could rub on a part of the engine, and just over time it would rub and then spring a leak.
Right.
And then that would spark, and the Ferrari burns to the ground. My car, they issued this probably around 2000, and mine, this is 15, 20 years later,
Right.
hadn't been done yet. And I wanted to get just a little bit more out of it before I had this done because I didn't want to send it to Ferrari. Just the shipping to a Ferrari dealership
Sure.
and back would have been over $1,000 to do this free repair, so I hadn't done it yet. But I thought, okay, I'll get it through Monterey Car Week. It's been fine all of its life so far. It'll be fine for a couple more weeks. Then when it's in California, I'll leave it there, get the recall done, then ship it home.
Right.
Didn't work out.
Didn't work out.
Ferrari burned to the ground. Unlike you, I was very sad about it. Why do you want your Bronco to die?
I just, it doesn't have a lot of power. It would make you happy if I got something a little beefier in Chicago to get around.
I suppose. So the fix on the Ferrari was a steel-braided, heavy-duty fuel line, a
Right.
whole new block, all that stuff to basically make it pretty much invincible. Way over the top, way overcompensating for this mistake. Ford, from what I read,
They're not gonna do
their
that?
fix, you would think that they would replace the bad injectors.
Right. Of course. That's what
Right.
you're supposed to do,
3
right?
bad injectors that can crack and fail, just replace those injectors.
Right.
No. They are adding a drain if the injector cracks to where it can safely go around and not on the exhaust and burn to the ground. Not burn to the ground, apparently.
It's like duct tape and chewing gum to fix a big problem.
Right. And then if it fails,
Yeah.
then the car will be able to detect it, another software fix, and it'll cut off the fuel pump, which means you would be stranded on the side of the road.
Fantastic, because I love being stranded in the middle of Chicago.
Not that it's that hard to change fuel injectors on these things.
Right.
It's just the cost and the time. This recall is much simpler. Like, route a few little hoses
Yeah.
and plug in the computer, and if it detects that there's, fuel issues, cut the car off.
Is there a way to see if I look under the hood if there's fuel issues
We
right
can
now?
check and see, but it's just something, I imagine it'll crack at one point, and then it just happens, and you'll be on the side of the road. Ford could do the right thing, replace the injectors. I think that's what NHTSA wants them to do.
Yeah.
But they want to go the cheap, easy route and not have to do it.
This is gonna be awful.
So don't feel bad for Ford losing $100,000 on every single car because, clearly they don't care about April Rose at all.
Can you imagine on the side of the road? And so I don't know how long you've all been watching, but I had ACL surgery and now I'm taking steroids because of the inflammation. I am in serious roid rage mode right now. If my Bronco shuts off in Chicago, I dare you to mess with me. I'm coming after Ford. This is it. It's on. They need to fix this, right?
I'm scared for Ford.
I'm scared for you.
Thank you so much for watching.